We're at Gallaudet University in our nation's capital, the Rush and the Breeze right now.
Toronto is the team that everybody wants to beat, and that will kind of be like the aha, the DC Breeze are here.
Toronto's never lost, so obviously that's a lot of pressure.
I mean, we all want to win. There's no doubt about that. I don't know anybody who doesn't. It would mean a lot, especially after all these years of work and kind of building this team to beat Toronto.
The home of the Toronto Rush will be the site next week for the AUDL East Division Showdown, but today we're in the nation's capital and on the campus of the world's leading institution for the hard of hearing, Gallaudet University, the site for the Toronto Rush and the DC Breeze. It's the season debut for the Rush, the Breeze, looking to get to 2-0. And good afternoon, everybody. Delighted to have you with us. You could not ask for a nicer spring Saturday night. Evan Lepler with Brian Jones. Great to be back with him. And these two teams both have great expectations. Obviously, the Rush have set the standard for 3 years in a row, but the DC Breeze have brought in a whole bunch of talent thinking about a change of the guard.
Yeah, it's a new beginning for the DC Breeze, and you look at this roster, and it's filled to the brim with players playing for the U.S. men's national team. They're going to be an exciting team to watch, and they're looking to take the East by storm.
And we'll see if they can get the first punch today, but this Toronto team still has a whole slew of guys that play on the Canadian national team, including Isaiah Masek-Kelly. And a year ago is when he really came out of his shell for the Rush.
Yeah, with the injuries to Mark Lloyd and Jonathan Martin, you saw the Rush have to depend on Isaiah Masek-Kelly, and he's a 6'4" player who's dominant in the deep game, but he really transformed, added another dimension to himself. He's able to come underneath and deliver deep pucks with precision to his receivers.
The numbers for over 3 seasons, over 100 goals. He can dish the disc too. Defensively, he's a dynamo. For the DC Breeze, you can focus on any number of their new infused talent, but Alan Kolek, a member of that U.S. national team you mentioned, one of the craftiest handlers in the sport.
Yeah, we're taking a look right there. You can see he has great release points, just an ability to deliver the disc. But what's really impressive also about Alan Kolek is his physical tools. He's got more endurance. He's quicker than the majority of players he's going to face. And it's like being in a slow cooker. He's going to sit there and he's going to take the small options each time going down the field and dig and dunk his way to victory.
He doesn't necessarily look like a dominant athlete, but just when you think that, he'll score for his team, and he makes it look easy. The DC Breeze have never beaten the Toronto Rush before. They believe that today could be the day. The opening pull between DC and Toronto. Our AUDL Game of the Week coming up next.
Imagine you're in a new town for a couple of days and you find yourself wanting a bike. Use SpinLister to rent any kind of bike in your area in over 55 countries. Have an unforgettable adventure while saving up to 40% on rentals. And whatever you do, don't forget to enjoy your ride. Rent a bike today or list your own to start making money and connecting with awesome people.
Early recognition is critical. Teaches middle school PE classes about ultimate Frisbee and cancer symptom awareness.
We're a registered nonprofit that advocates for an active, healthy lifestyle, body awareness, and speaking up if something is wrong.
Skills that, when it comes to cancer, can help save a life. Ultimate is a fast-paced team sport that's self-refereed, non-contact, and co-ed.
Spirit of the game is the foundation of Ultimate. That means we communicate respectfully, we're fair-minded, and we enjoy the game.
Ultimate is accessible to everyone. All you need is a Frisbee and some friends. Our team of coaches is made up of experienced and passionate leaders from the Ultimate community.
We teach kids that playing fair is more important than winning.
We can come to your middle school and run your PE classes for the day. And if we're not in your area yet, we'll send you our clinic in a box, where we give you the resources to run your own.
Ultimate Frisbee is one of the fastest growing sports in the world.
Teachers and parents love Ultimate Frisbee.
We are Eric!
And we want to work with you and your school.
That Evan Phillips vacated, and there's of course Alex Gesquier. Everybody knows him as Dutchie. Two guys that have pretty good accomplishments in their resumes, Brian.
Yeah, I mean, both of these coaches have done so much and for so long, and Dutchie, and goes back to national team, and you see Shooter over there. He's going to be coaching for Team Canada as well. So it's not only a DC versus Toronto game, but this is almost a preview of Team USA versus Team Canada, which is going to be coming later this year.
2 weeks from now, the U.S. national team and the Canadian national team will both be down in Colombia for a tournament to help prepare for London. And today's April 23rd. 2 months and 2 days from now, the gold medal games in London. Who knows if it'll be Canada versus the United States for gold tonight. A nice precursor for that, perhaps. The Rush begin on defense, and the DC offense, led by Alan Kolick, will get things started.
Right away, looking for Jeff Wodach. He's been such an incredible athlete, known, originally for his defensive play, but really upped his game and added another dimension to the offense.
And the first throwaway of the game, a scoober out of the left hand of Alan Kolick. Gord Harrison quickly picks up the disc. Nice job creating space, but a drop. Mike Jones, who is leading the Russian warm-ups today, couldn't haul it in. Markham Schaffner quickly picks it up, gets it to David Cranston. There's Jonathan Neely. Inside flick to Kolick. On the goal line and into the end zone. Markham Schaffner with the first goal.
Couple turnovers to start, but you saw DC able to pick it up and run the fast break, no problem. And, part of that was hinged on Jonathan Neely, number 6. He's someone who's been playing in the game for a number of years, but recently last year I thought elevated his game. He's been in great physical shape, and like some other players here, like Kolick, he's a lefty, able to take advantage of all of the little insides and outs that come by being a lefty. You don't think about it too much, but being a lefty in this game can be a pretty big advantage.
Here's a nice job by Toronto swinging the disc. That was the first touch for Alex Simmons, the new Boston native, or Boston resident, I should say, native of Minnesota. But Kolick just so crafty around the end zone.
Yeah, lost among all of this, U.S. and Canada storyline and all the DC new beginnings is the Boston contingent coming out.
And no Will Neff today, but Rusty Ingold-Smith and Alex Simmons are here, and defensive miscommunication by the Breeze. Cam Harris hits Jeff Lindquist deep. Massac Kelly back to Adrian Yearwood. Scott Thompson McKnight as a reset. McKnight's first throw to Massac Kelly. And in the end zone, it's Yearwood. Is that the type of offense that you expect from this Toronto team?
Yeah, they take a great advantage of just a defensive breakdown by the DC Breeze. And once you get into the end zone with these types of players, you're up against the wall as a defense. You have to do so much, especially on this wide field, to actually get a block at that point. And you see just their ability to stay patient. Once they get it to Lindquist, they're going to be able to swing it around and eventually find a wide open receiver.
And Massac Kelly, who had more than 50 assists a year ago, picks up his first of 2016. With the Toronto Rush taking the field today, now every team in the AUDL, all 26 of them, have played at least one game this year. Toronto, the last team in the league, did not play in any of the first 3 weeks of the season. But apparently it's still a little chilly up north of the border.
Who would have thought? But even though Montreal was able to get their season going a little bit early.
Montreal winning in their opening game against Philadelphia last week and then losing to New York the next day. The Royale are 1-1. The Ottawa Outlaws are 0-2, including a 28-17 loss in the DC Breeze opener.
Right now, what I'm focused on here is figuring out what DC is going to do as an offense. Talked earlier in the week to Dutchie, head coach for the Breeze, about they still needed to put together their system. And with so many new players, it's kind of difficult. For Toronto, they're going to figure it out quickly.
Nice communication near the goal line. Cranston, a little cheeky, intended for Kolick.
And Kolick and Cranston have played together in a lot of different areas, so that's kind of surprising to see that. I think right now the wind is playing havoc on some of these players' cheeky throws, just being a little bit too casual.
So see if Toronto's D-line can work it up the field. Simmons, a good toss to Andrew Carroll, looking long for Ojo. Cranston nearby, and Ojo rips it from the sky. Remy Ojo picks up the assist after a sensational soaring grab and the game's first break here in DC.
Yeah, Carroll puts it deep for Ojo, and normally Ojo's starts off being 20 yards open here, and because of the wind it floats, but when you have Ojo, who cares?
Cranston just mistimed his jump ever so slightly, and Ojo made Carroll look good.
Cranston also is a well-respected defender, and he's got the size to deal with it, but Ojo just makes the better play.
Jackie Howe hauls in the goal, and the first break belongs to the Rush. Nearly 3 minutes into the game on the game's third point. Remy Ojo is a guy who has developed into not just a tremendous defensive player, but obviously his offensive skills have grown to complement that. And I think one of the most valuable defenders in the entire AUDL.
Yeah, it's just any throw that's not perfect, he's got a chance at making an amazing play. And he can make a highlight reel for a good 10 minutes of just all of the plays that Remy Ojo has made over the last 5 years.
That'd be a fun highlight reel to watch. So the DC Breeze, their O-line back out there. Markham Schaffner with a disc. Underneath to Kolick.
Right now they're going against a strong wind, and it's just difficult for them to get the disc. To the receivers, you just see it floating, and Toronto's taking advantage.
Yearwood with the interception. Breton Tan is in the book. Trevor Henry the goal as Breton Tan, 18 years old, has his first AUDL assist, and that's 2 scores in a row via the break for Toronto.
Toronto has seized the moment at the beginning of this game, and DC has not looked clean on offense. It's clear that their receivers are hesitating. They're not sure when to go. And right away, you're going to see a timeout here by the Breeze, and you can see that something's fundamentally wrong in offense.
Alex Gestier signaled for the timeout. And just the Rush, after a 10-hour bus ride yesterday, playing with a pretty good skip to their step.
Serving pizza at every home game sponsoring the halftime event. Provide 50% off your online orders with promo.
Make sure we have 2 handlers back all the time, so handlers don't press up field too hard. Good. Hey, they want that serious. Let's go. Here we go, Breeze! Hey, Breeze! I saw Breeze. Nice!
Saw Jonathan Goose Helton standing out there for Washington, D.C., a 2-time MVP in this league, playing in his first game for the D.C. Breeze.
Yeah, you know how stacked this roster is. You get just far into the first quarter, and we're not talking about the 2-time MVP. Another guy is going to be playing for the U.S. men's national team, incredible athlete.
And it's Helton making the cut underneath and rising for the catch. Jeff Powell, aggressive defense near the disc. And Helton lets it fly, looking for Wodach. Ojo is close, and it's incomplete.
Neely tried to swoop in and make the catch, but couldn't come down with it.
Toronto looking for Powell. There's contact on the landing, but no whistle, and quickly Schaffner shooting it. Kolick tracks it down.
After watching Markham Schaffner for years, all the way back to Claremont when he won a Division III national championship, there's one thing he likes to do, and that's shoot the disc.
Not waiting for much to develop, just letting it fly, and it was a laser beam that Kolick really had to extend for.
Sometimes it wasn't pretty, but I think DC's figuring out very quickly that in this game with this win, sometimes you just have to take those risks and those opportunities. Toronto came out with the right game plan. But DC has seemed to adjust after that timeout.
Well, Alex Gesquier told the team before the game, especially on a turnover, we want to look deep quickly. And if we have real cuts going deep, that'll open up the unders later in the stall count. But really trying to test the rush. And here's Toronto's offensive line. Familiar names, McKnight, Harris, Masick, Kelly, and Lindquist, the first 4 touches. Looking off Yearwood, here's the youngster Nathan Hurst. His quickness has earned him a spot on this Toronto offensive line.
Right, I mean, he may be young, but he is very tough to guard and very tough to shut down because in small spaces, you just can't do much about it.
Yearwood floats it over the defense. Thompson McKnight is there.
This game is going to go through a series of adjustments. Both of these coaches are experienced, and they're going to take the defenses to play that chess match with the other team. And you see that Toronto loves the break side. They love to get the disc to the other side of the field, open up space, and then once they get near the end zone, they just have, so many of their players have scoobers, lefties, little floaty throws that they're able to put in for the goal.
Adrian Yearwood has been playing for a very long time. Hitting McKnight for the score. Yearwood now 27 years old. At the University of Toronto, he chose Ultimate over varsity soccer at the end of his high school career and has stayed with it ever since.
Great piano player.
Yeah, he's an artsy guy. Works as a professional actor in a theater company. All right, Schaffner's going to pick up here for DC.
I think this tells you what you need to know about what DC's offense is going to be when Schaffner is going to be the first person to pick up the disc.
What does that tell you, that they're looking deep?
They're looking deep right away. They're going to try to open up the field.
Jonathan Neely with a touch. Continues it to Tyler Monroe, another guy who likes to shoot it, but it was too far for Helton. Tyler Monroe, 20 years old, from Seattle, now plays at George Washington where he's a junior. I mean, he's part of the Seattle cult that started playing Ultimate in 5th grade, but
after the Seattle Fries out there.
Garrett Marin picks up after the turn. Another one of the Rush's young guns. So far, Alex Simmons has fit in pretty well with the Toronto defense.
Alex Simmons is just an incredibly solid player.
So close for David Boylan Colchin, but Ocho able to haul it in. Well, last week on ESPN3, we saw Eli Friedman try to mesh with Los Angeles, and it didn't go particularly well on their offensive line. There were several miscommunications and dumps and resets. And there's just an execution error from Jarrett Marin. Quickly, Wodatch launches long. Helton off his hands.
That's a catch that he's going to usually make. And when you contrast, like you talked about Eli Friedman joining LA, and I think Eli Friedman's a great player, but you look at Alex Simmons, his game, he keeps it very simple. He does quick progressions. He looks very quickly through from the next option, and he doesn't try to do too much. But he's incredibly hardworking, great on the defensive side of the disc, and very valuable to pretty much any team. He's a player that I think anybody would take.
Oh my, off the hands of Jackie Howe, and then it was tipped again. I beg your pardon, it was Breton Tan who lost it, and now DC, because of the foul, will have it on the goal line. Monroe will pick it up. Looked off Schaffner, finds Helton. They were determined to get Goose Helton his first goal as a member of the Breeds.
Helton just, when he got to have a chance to go down to Team USA tryouts, and Helton was just, you knew he was a great athlete, and he's kind of put himself above the rest, but it's just so impressive when you go there and you're in the East Coast tryouts and you have half the best Ultimate players that are a part of the USA group. And he is just incredible. He came out right away and made incredible plays throughout the entire tryout process.
It's a little over the top from Monroe to Helton. Jonathan Helton is actually in an interesting spot physically right now because he's been training in the Philippines, where he spent a lot of his time coaching and preparing for USA Ultimate's Beach Nationals. But during that time, he actually got pretty sick. He contracted a parasite, and he said he lost about 15 pounds. He came back home, recuperated. He's feeling better, but he's not 100% of the way back. So, you know, compared to where he was in January and February, when he said he was in the best shape of his entire life, getting ready for USA Worlds tryouts, he's still not quite back at that level, which is obviously frustrating for him, but at least he's feeling better.
Yeah, but 90% of Jonathan Helton is better than most people's 100%, so.
That's a great point. Say the same for Masson Kelly, who hit Sashin Reyna. Reyna is expanding his role on Toronto this year. In addition to being a reset handler and a downfield cutter, the veteran is also an assistant coach, a player assistant coach, along with Scott Shooter Hasty. Oh, and a great grab in the end zone, but a whistle before it, I believe. And Masson Kelly's layout going to be negated.
Got a foul call before. It's going to give Hurst the disc on the goal line, or near the goal line.
Yearwood floats it, rising up. Masson Kelly elevating and scores.
6'4" does you a lot of good when you can go up and get that catch. As a thrower, you know, it's kind of funny. You throw to guys who are a little bit smaller in stature, and you make sure the pass is accurate, but when you get a big guy out there, you just put it up there and make sure you get it out quick because you know he has a chance to get it.
Finally settling in a little bit as Yearwood picks up the assist. Second assist for Yearwood, who's got a goal and 2 dimes in the first quarter. For the visiting Rush, they drove down on a bus from Toronto yesterday, about a 10-hour trek. And they'll head up to Philadelphia for their second game of the season tomorrow against the Phoenix. Jackie Howe launches the pull.
Yeah, DC's going to have to go under some adjustments here on the defensive side to generate some turnovers.
It's been pretty easy for the Toronto offense.
The offense has adjusted well, and now they're taking the risks downfield with this wind.
Tom Doy shows off his quickness. Hits Boylan Colchin. Doy reset and a quick release for Kolek. He wanted Wodach in the diagonal shot cross field, but it wasn't there. A nice holster. And now the swing. Doy looking to the end zone, and it's Monroe for the goal.
Monroe been very impressive in the last couple of points, and you can tell that they have a lot of trust in the 20-year-old to go out there and pick up the disc and play offense. It's just unusual in this day and age to see that, you know, a guy who is making his name for himself, first in the AUDL.
I asked Alex Gesquier. Of course, the Breeze are without a few of their top players, like Nicky Spiva and Brett Matsuka, Matt Kerrigan. And yet, as you see Tom Doy pick up the assist, I asked him, you know, presumably those guys are in the top 20. So which of the active guys today might get bumped out when they come back? And I said, maybe some of the younger guys. He said, probably not. You know, those younger guys are in there for a reason, and he really likes what they're capable of. Obviously, there are things to tweak and things to refine, but the DC area has become more prestigious in cultivating young talent the past few years.
And now we see it just trying to change things up, a zone look here by the Breeze. And it looks like a basic 3-person cup or a 3-3-1 zone, so one person playing the deeps. And I talked a little bit to Dutchy about this, and just there are some teams, you know, like Madison, that are just so good at throwing zones and being able to force turnovers by it. And it's incredible with this wide field, just the offenses have such an advantage.
Nice around shot there, hitting Lindquist. Over to Yearwood. Looks like DC's transitioned into a man, but it might be too late.
Yeah, Toronto just looks very comfortable. They stay very patient in zones. They don't try to move too quickly.
Harris, a laser beam for Henry in the goal. Even if the zone doesn't work, it can change the flow of the game, can't it?
Right, I mean, you're changing up the pace, and so all of a sudden you're used to slower decisions, you wait out the stall count, you don't move the disc as quickly, and you're just doing different things. So, you know, even though that it didn't generate a turnover, doesn't mean that it's the, first of all, it's great to have a defense to switch it up. And second of all, you never know if you just cause Toronto to get a little bit too relaxed and just come out the next time and make a mistake when they have to be more aggressive.
It was an aggressive bid there from Rowan McDonald, who is one of the captains of the Breeze, despite being in his first year with the team.
I've heard only good things about Rowan. I believe one of the stories was some of his compatriots were saying that he pretty much locked himself in a gym for a year and then came out a beast of an ultimate player.
He is determined to get every ounce of potential from his ability. And over the head of Tom Doy off his fingertips. It's a tough matchup for the 18-year-old Brett Tan chasing Tom Doy around. Toronto's D-line with the disc again. Marin hits Jeff Bonner Powell, a man who's authored many highlights in this league as well. Nice touch throw up the line to Simmons, to Harrison. He'll launch for Ocho, and it's right on the money. Another Toronto break at 7-4 in the first.
I don't think that it's necessarily been Toronto has done a great job of forcing turnovers, but they're forcing DC to take higher risk shots. And DC is comfortable taking the scoobers, the lefties, and they're just a little bit off. And so far, the difference in this game is 7-4, and it's because Toronto has scored nearly on, I think, 4 out of the 6 break chances they've had.
And they've capitalized on pretty much every opportunity. And Gord Harrison, a confident throw. Wodach thought he might have a shot to close on the disc, but Ojo with his first score.
Yeah, in Toronto, I mean, the wind has been a pretty big factor early, but Toronto going against the wind, no problem, very confident in their throws.
Well, 14 members of the Toronto Rush are on the Canadian national team. 12 of the active 20 today are Canadian national team members. The only guys missing, of course, is Mark Lloyd and Jonathan Martin.
I know I'm excited for both of those guys to be back in action, and it's just not as good of a game when you see 2 of those types of players out due to injury, and for Mark Lloyd to be coming back this season, it's going to be great.
Also should mention Toronto Sachin Reina is on the Masters team in Canada. Helton with a perfect bomb into the grasp of Cranston.
What else is there to say? I mean,
as pretty as it gets.
Right, and then that's textbook. You put it out in front. And this is a reason why most coaches don't like to force backhand when you're going against the wind. It's just much easier to rip a backhand with the amount of spin you impart on the disc. Throwing flicks is usually much harder. You just see Goose step out, and that's money in the bank.
David Cranston picks up the goal. And Goose Helton, a guy who has made himself into a star as well. Coming out of Wheaton College in Illinois, he was not a household name by any means, but 3-time All-AUDL performer. Guy who shares the AUDL single game record for most blocks, most Ds in a game. And what I found interesting, Brian, is the fact that Alex Guesquier is having Goose Helton play primarily offense today, despite the fact that he's still getting to know a lot of these new teammates.
He's just such a weapon, and you saw by that throw that not only is he pretty much an athletic freak, but he has the ability to just put discs where he wants to.
Let's see if the DC D-line can put something together. There's Bob Lou picking up. Lou, a mainstay in the handler corps for the Chicago Wildfire the last 3 seasons.
And, you know, his partner back there in handling is Nate Castine, someone who has done wonders for Seattle over the years, recently moved to DC within the last 3. And again, this roster is just so loaded with talent. We talked about so many guys that have made the men's national team, but Bob Lou, David Cranston, Nate Castine are all names that were considered for that too.
And Masick Kelly with a deflection comes up with a D.
Some messy offense by the D-line for the Breeze.
Yeah, they're not in a rhythm at all.
They haven't been able to get into one so far today, but that's really the D-line's first touch that they've been able to get out from Toronto.
Oh, tremendous defense from the Breeze.
Brian Marshall from Elon, full extension. And he saw that come out the end cut and just took advantage of it.
Into the final minute of the quarter. Toronto will receive to start quarter number 2. Important opportunity here for the Breeze. Not in the end zone yet. And now Egan hits Marshall. A roundabout bookend point there for Brian Marshall. It was his D that regained possession and was really the highlight of the point.
Yeah, they needed a spark and DC got it. Now within one, and you can say that they're going to be able to compete in this game. I mean, we knew that already, but we hadn't seen the ability to generate turnovers against Toronto yet. We hadn't seen them get a break and to end the first quarter after kind of, frankly, having a bad start to the game. Within one here would be a great accomplishment.
Rowan McDonald, a high backhand release to Egan. And by that point, it was DC's score to get within one. Now Toronto here has 25 seconds. Not the true offensive line here. After the break, it's Harrison and Simmons, Jones, Powell, Carroll, Jackie Howe. And Harrison wanted a hand block. And I think Brad Scott is invoking the integrity rule when the referee missed it.
And that's a good call. It's so tough to figure out the fouls in the mark, but the players know it.
Classy play by Brad Scott, pride of UMBC. Carroll with 10 seconds. Harrison to Simmons. Throws it up. What a shot! Alex Simmons over the top to Jarrett Marin with 1 second on the first quarter clock.
I think you got to know that Alex Simmons is having fun, because let me tell you, I've watched his game for the last 5 years. I didn't know he had a scuba in his throwing arsenal.
What a way to ingratiate yourself to your new teammates.
But that's a crucial goal here. You're going to receive out of potentially up 8-6, and at that point you could be right back to your 3-point lead.
The DC Breeze have 1.6 seconds on the clock. Look at Alex Simmons. Longtime member of the Boston community, a great player for the Wisconsin Podags during his college days.
Markham Schaffner is going to get his shot here if he can.
From the goal line, Schaffner with an outrageous backhand. And it's Isaiah Masick Kelly who pads his stats. An impressive 75 to 80 yard throw from Schaffner, but an even more impressive first quarter from the visiting Toronto Rush. The 3-time defending champs are not ready to give up their throne just yet. 1 down, 3 to go here in Washington, D.C. It's the Rush 8 and the Breeze 6 here at Gallaudet University.
Imagine you're in a new town for a couple of days and you find yourself wanting a bike. Use Spin Lister to rent any kind of bike in your area in over 55 countries. Have an unforgettable adventure while saving up to 40% on rentals. And whatever you do, don't forget to enjoy your ride. Rent a bike today or list your own to start making money and connecting with awesome people.
The last thing that Dutchie said at practice was kind of, we're not worried about the results at this point. We're still working through a lot of process. I mean, we've only had, 5 or 6 practices together as a team, and we're still learning a new system. But I don't think that makes us any less hungry to win this game and to show Toronto that we are for real.
Not the prototypical ultimate player from an appearance standpoint, but he has found a way to turn himself into one of the best players in the country.
Yeah, he's so hard to guard. You talk to defenders, and they sit there and they'll come up to me and they'll say, "Yeah, I gave it to my best Alan Kolek, and I didn't do anything. He did whatever he wanted." And there were players at the USA tryout saying that, and there was really no one who could stop him or even slow him down. It was just dinking and dunking, running the offense the way he wanted to, making some great defensive plays as well.
The roster shift for the DC Breeze really began when Alan Kolek and Markham Schaffner officially decided to sign with the DC Breeze. They did so even before championship weekend last year. It was very early. First time he met Don Grage was at a dinner at a pizzeria Uno's here in DC, and wasn't really sure what to expect. He admitted, "I thought I was just going to get a free dinner out of it," but became really impressed with the vision of Don Grage, and the dominoes have continued to topple. Up line, Hurst, did he land in bounds? No. Ruled out of bounds. And the Breeze with a chance for a break to begin the second quarter.
Good adjustment here by the Breeze. They're able to contain the rush and make him go backwards.
Up line for Bob Lou. Looking for Cantone. Harris tipped it away. And Harris lets it fly. Lindquist the target. He's got it 8 yards from the goal line. And he rushed it, but it worked out as Nathan Hurst stayed with the play for the Toronto score.
Bob Lou tries to get creative and put a forehand out to space, and it worked earlier for Gord Harrison of the rush, but Lou just didn't get enough on it. The Rusher able to come up with it. Put it in for the 9-6 lead.
Let's talk about that D, though, by Cameron Harris. A guy who has all the throws and all the skills and is felt like he's been at the top of his game forever. I was kind of surprised that he wasn't older than he's actually is. He's only 26.
Yeah, he's a player. When you talk to his teammates and you ask who's the best player or who's the most talented player, they often point towards Cam Harris. He's got length, he's got height, and when he's on his game, he can take down teams by himself.
It's tough to choose the most talented player on the Toronto Rush. The guy sitting next to Cam Harris right there, Jeff Lindquist, could probably be in the conversation too.
Lindquist is so experienced and he's so quick for someone of his height, and it's so hard because he had so much to do with the deep game and you want to put a taller person on, but he exploits that taller defender so well.
Horizontal stack offense here, deep shot. What a throw. Markham Schaffner to David Cranston.
You know, the great thing about having this talent on the field is you know there's going to be fireworks, and when you get into a windy game, you might think that people want to be more conservative, or the players want to make sure they hone in the simple throws, but sometimes it's about risk-taking, and there's nobody better than Markham Schaffner at that.
I saw the little shrug of the shoulders there right before the throw, and it was almost like, sure, why not?
Could have been a sure, why not, or why aren't you already cutting for me deep?
A couple assists so far for Schaffner. Grew up in the Nashville area. He and Nikki Spiva have been great friends for a long time. And of course, Markham's younger sister, Jessie, a star in the women's game at the University of Oregon, has won several championships with Oregon Fugue. Toronto's offensive point, Reyna to McKnight, and McKnight is typically the center handler, picked that up. There was nobody in front of him downfield.
Yeah, he's a guy that's normally a hucker for this Rush squad, and he can take some risks from that position. Especially in this win, I'm not surprised that he's running to pick up that up.
Hasn't felt like a true upwind, downwind game, but at the moment, the Rush are going downwind, and the wind has picked up a little bit just these last few minutes.
Well, I think what's tough here is the wind's swirling, so at different ends of the stadium, it's going to be a little bit different. So players are trying to figure out what throws they can make and at what point on the field they can make them.
How long do you think it takes for throwers to figure that out over the course of a game?
You know, the best throwers are going to figure that out after the first couple of points, but the problem becomes sometimes with this loaded talent, as you saw from DC, is they have guys who are all so talented that they think that they can put it in the tight spaces, and normally they can. But that means you get, at the beginning of the game, they all make their one mistake, and then they figure it out.
As a coach, are you okay with one mistake per player? Or do you have to be better than that? There's Kelly in the end zone from Lindquist.
You have to be better than that, and that's way too much. You're talking about one mistake per player, 20 players, you're going to go off with 20 turnovers. That'd be, most coaches I think would have their heads in their hands at that point. And that's just why coaching is so important, because you have to establish the right roles.
Well, you've coached against Toronto, both as an AUDL coach and a club coach, coaching against Toronto's club team. What do you tell your players about trying to not necessarily stop, but trying to slow down a guy like Kelly?
I think with Kelly is, you actually have to make him rush a little bit. You want him to take risks, and you want him to still shoot it deep in some ways, but he's been so consistent that you can try that strategy and he's still going to burn you. In some ways, you just have to try to slow him down. You can put the taller matchup on him, but then he's going to go ahead and he's going to use his quickness to get open underneath, and he's just deadly with the disc. I think that's what you see is a lot of unforced turnovers in Ultimate. You can call them unforced, but it happens late in games where all of a sudden the defense ratchets up the pressure, and things are just, you have to make decisions a little bit faster. You have to rush the throw. It's not the same muscle memory. And that's when you see the mistakes where like a huck goes long by about 5 yards or doesn't get up in the air as well.
Kolek bursting up line past Tan and then hitting Wodach in the end zone.
I like the tempo that the Breeze played with right there. Before it felt like they were trying to move it too fast. And in addition to that, you saw a lot better use of spacing. They went to a kind of a spread formation caused by Toronto and just were able to get some rhythm, work it around, and have no problem putting it into the end zone.
Well, Tan was really putting a lot of pressure on Kolek on the reset, so Kolek wisely went up the line, and it was easy score from there.
Yeah, once you do that, that's the problem with pressure is you can see these types of plays here. Tan does actually a great job, like you pointed out. But
super cool release there by Kolek, by the way.
Right. I mean, we expect that. At least I do from Alan Kolek. He's going to be able to do that all game long. But that's the problem with playing good players. Is you can only take really a quarter of the field away at any given time, and you try to trap them in the situations and get them off sync. And Tan's doing a great job there, but Kolek just made a better play.
As a handler defender, do you want to, over the course of the game, switch up the amount of pressure that you're putting on that star handler from point to point, just so that he doesn't necessarily know? Are you going to be preventing the swing? Are you going to be preventing the up line? Do you want to try to change that up?
I think it's actually a matter of team defense, and you can choose the player you want to have the disc in their hands the most. And so with certain players, like with Kolek, if he's so deadly, you could poach off of him and get the disc out of his hands, but then other players are going to have better opportunities. And so it just matters in the rest of the players that they have, and that's the problem with the Breeze. Loaded with talent.
Here's the second zone look of the game for the DC defense.
And it's the same thing when you look at Toronto, is you take the disc out of Isaiah Kelly's hands, like, okay, you're going to put it to Jeff Lindquist and Cam Harris, and they're going to make plays. So as a team, you have to decide what you're going to take away and try to get the entire unit off sync.
Kelly to Harris. DC makes the call and switches to man downfield, and they were ready to make the adjustment. Nice communication there defensively.
Right, and you can just tell by the pace that Toronto's playing with that the zone kind of worked out here. Even though they might not get a turnover and the rush was able to work it, it took the rush a long time just to make the half field, and then a great transition means that you have tight matchups downfield.
So you think the DC defensive line here coming to the bench is going to get a lot of positive reinforcement for that defensive effort?
Yeah, I think after you see those types of points, there's going to be some adjustments you want to make, but as far as using zone to transition to man defense, that's about as good as it comes.
Throw from Kelly, Trevor Henry to Yearwood, and then Hurst into the end zone for the goal.
You know, Ultimate is a game that really has a flow like basketball. You can sit there and try to guard LeBron James in a certain way so that way he misses 40% of his shots, but he's still going to get 60% of his shots regardless of what you do.
Good numbers for Yearwood so far, playing in his 33rd game for the Toronto Rush. They begin their 4th season as a franchise in the AUDL's East Division. And they have gone 35-0 against United States East Division opponents in the regular season. The last 4 meetings between DC and Toronto, 4 Toronto wins by a combined 67 goals.
As a coach who had to face Toronto 4 times a year, I mean, I'm glad that you're bringing up so many bad memories for me right now, Evan. It's just Toronto's been so good for so long, and the talent there has been so great. It's awesome to see this matchup early on in the season and get a taste of what possible playoffs could be like.
And they've won in a lot of blowouts, and they've also been tested in this division, primarily shown. Oh, Helton throws it up, and he forced it, but the deflection lands in the hands of the DC Breeze. Wow, David Poland Colchin, right place, right time.
That's a tough one to swallow if you're the Rush defense. You got exactly what you wanted, you just couldn't complete the process.
Helton actually gets an assist for this, even though they probably should give it to Mike Jones.
The perfect bank. But if you're the Rush, you're still in great position here. Up 2 with a chance to receive and go up 3. They've taken advantage. They've been the team that's made less mistakes so far, and that's been the difference in the game. You know, sometimes you contrast that. It's simple, make less mistakes, and of course that's what every offense is aiming for. But you're also looking at teams sometimes who are so talented that they cause the other team to make mistakes, and really it's been a lot of self-inflicted wounds for DC early on.
The guy you may have just noticed doing push-ups on the DC sideline was John Pressimone, who's one of 2 members of the Breeze who have been with the franchise all 4 years. That's a gorgeous throw from Harris to Yearwood. Pressimone not active today, but still working on his arm muscles, and wow, the quick counter immediately thwarted by Thompson McKnight, who finds Harris for the goal. Not Alex Vlahos. Cam Harris misplaced his jersey, so he's representing number 14 in the name of Vlahos. Harris gives Toronto a 3-goal lead in that quirky possession.
Yeah, I hope that doesn't mess up my fantasy too much.
You have Harris in your fantasy team?
I mean, who wouldn't? Guy who throws a ton of assists and usually is around the disc a lot.
So McDonald just picking up too quickly, tried to force that to Castine, and it did not work out.
You know, it feels like in this game with 6 minutes to go in the first half that DC's so close to tying up this game or even making a run to take the lead, but it's just, something's a little bit off still for this D-line. They haven't been able to just settle down, go at a good tempo, relax a little bit. Right now they've just gotten so few chances that they're afraid this is the only one they're going to get and they have to act fast.
Kolick looking for Wodash. McKenzie and Powell are nearby. And contact was called from the far side referee. Meanwhile, the referee in the end zone did not signal for anything, and they're going to stop the clock and discuss it.
There's a lot of bodying and a lot of contact here going on. I don't know how much of an argument Wodach has there. That's a close one, but it looks like the refs are going to rule in his favor.
Certainly some contact, physical game. That could easily be let go. Instead, DC catches a break and immediately capitalizes, playing through some more contact in the end zone. Tom Doy picks up the goal.
Doy with one of those players that he's just very quiet, and at first you wouldn't think he's a guy who's going to be on the U.S. national team, but just an incredibly smart player, somebody who cuts at the right time, makes the right decisions, and does it so consistently.
Tom Doy did not take the prototypical route to professional ultimate. Never played real competitive college ultimate. Doy spent 2 years at Green Mountain College in Poultney, Vermont. And up there he went to sectionals one time. I asked him how he did. He said, we got crushed. We were so bad, he said. And I mean, this just goes to show you that if you're a guy, a college ultimate player, a high school ultimate player, you were cut from your A team, you are not playing a whole lot on the B team, you can grow and become a member of the U.S. national team with the right amount of work ethic, and obviously there's some natural ability there too. But you know, Doy has great speed. I asked him yesterday, who's the fastest member of the Breeze? He said, oh, you mean besides me? I said, sure, besides you. Who you got?
What's great about him is just he's very fast. At the same time, he's just very hardworking, never quits on the play, and always is cutting or defending.
Lindquist got lucky there. Kolick nearly had the D. But the Toronto offense, again, really spacing beautifully. Harris in the end zone.
If we can get a chance to take a look at this throw by Jeff Lindquist, it's just textbook Jeff Lindquist. You know, some people have these big loopy fakes where they go around the mark. Jeff kind of just goes over the shoulder, and the next thing you know, the backhand's going past your head. Take a look here as the rusher able to work it down, and then Lindquist will go the flick and then go right over the shoulder.
Everyone in this Toronto offensive line plays with such relaxed confidence. And it's contagious from one player to another, it seems.
It's from years of chemistry. I mean, this is something that Toronto, you know, in the club scene was a great budding team for so long. And they put together this group of players, with Jeff Lindquist being the senior member, that just know how to play this certain style. They know what they're looking for. They're very used to putting, you know, throws out to space that other teams wouldn't be used to.
Lindquist 31 will be 32 at the end of May. Cranston guarded by Rusty Ingold-Smith, who didn't play a lot in the first quarter of this game because he, like Brian Jones, had some flight issues, but able to get here in time, got loose, and David Cranston beats Rusty Ingold-Smith for the easy DC goal.
Ingold-Smith is not a name that a lot of people in the AUDL would necessarily know, but let me tell you, he's a heck of a defender. He's somebody who went to UNCW and led him to a quarterfinals exit against Brody Smith's Florida team that won the eventual national championship, and he did it with such great gusto, such a hard worker, and a great defender.
Right up the line, Kolick picks up another assist. Wherever you look, there's good matchups on the field. It's what makes it fun. 3 assists so far for Alan Kolick. Sashin Reyna picks it up, hits McKnight. What do you see from this spread Toronto offense right here?
No, they're just able to work it through the zone. At this point, they're just seeking out evenly spaced, meaning they're just going to make sure they don't have too many people in one spot and spread out the defense and give them a ton of options to work with.
Once again, Toronto progressing down the field quickly enough that DC can't really settle in with his own. Cantone just came up short with a layup.
And this is a case, as you might be wondering, why are they running zone? And it's a decision that's been made.
And there's a good poach from Cantone on the slash cut, knocking it away from Reyna.
It's something that just DC has decided to use that takes away the strength of this rush team, which is a lot of their deep game, makes them change up their rhythm, and you saw the outcome there. They were finally able to generate a turnover.
McDonald shooting it for Marshall. Got it.
Marshall nearly ran himself into the ground, but he made the highlight reel D earlier, able to track it down for the big break. And that puts the Breeze within 1 in striking distance. We're likely going to see a close game going into half, which is exciting. This has lived up to the billing of what we expected.
Both scores from the Breeze D-line coming from Marshall, but it was Cantone's D that set it up. Former Montreal Royale, spent a bunch of time in Quebec, now back here near his hometown of Richmond, Virginia, and with some of the best hair in the AUDL.
I was just about to say, just incredible hair. I mean, if you're going to be a hustle defender and you kind of want to have that rock star look, somebody who's going to go out there and get the crazy D, that's perfect.
Yeah, you could see him as like, you know, the lead guitarist for a metal band. That pull rolled out the back. So Jones will walk it up to the front. And this is the DC D-line primarily. And there was a foul downfield. Bob Lou took the worst of it. Jeff Powell nearby. To be honest, I did not see what happened live.
Just a collision, and right now they're talking it out too, which is what you like to see, and you get involved, and hopefully they come to the right solution. All of these guys here, you see Castine and Powell, and they're known for their physicality and kind of fiery attitudes too.
It's going to go against Toronto, so they're going to be halfway into their own end zone after the 10-yard penalty. Jones finds Powell, still in the end zone. Alex Simmons shakes free of Bob Lou. I'm really impressed with how Simmons has fit into this D-line in the first half. With that said, he has so much experience playing against these guys. And a timeout called from the Toronto sideline. And perhaps now they'll bring the offense back onto the field. We'll see. It's an important point here, Brian. Final few minutes of the first half, DC could tie it up with a break.
And you know all these points are important because these teams are great, and it looks like this game could come down to the wire. So battling it out here, you're going to see a lot of the studs on the line. I think it's a wise choice of a timeout when you have only 3.5 minutes to go. You've got to use them anyway, or else you lose them going into the second half. And I'm interested to see here, what does DC come out with? Is it an all-star pass for the defensive line? Is it a combination of both the O and D? And what are they going to do for Toronto? It looks like we're seeing the O-line, they got to rest after that last break, and they're going to come back out in the field and run the show.
Well, there's such a different feel to an AUDL game compared to a club game. I mean, if this was a club game, you might play to 15, it's 13-12, this would feel like crunch time. These teams have already played 25 points, not even halfway through, and it's just about grinding it out and not allowing the other team to make any big run that could make you fall behind by 3 or 4 breaks. Toronto does bring the offense back out primarily. Looks like Andrew Carroll is out there, the lone member of the D-line. Out there with McKnight, Kelly, Harris, Hurst, Henry, and Yearwood. A little pinch mark, excuse me.
Yeah, double team to start it off, taking some risks right away.
McKnight blades it toward his own end zone where Harris awaits. And a bullet to Kelly, who unleashes a huge backhand. Scott couldn't read it. Hurst to Henry. 80 yards in 10 seconds.
And I like the decision by Kelly to go deep. At the same time, if you're Brad Scott, you're going to be sitting there cringing, knowing that if you could have turned around and located the disc, you got yourself the block you needed with 3 minutes to go. You see the form by Kelly getting his entire giant 6'4" trunk into it. No problem against him.
When you were coaching the Rochester Dragons, did you often employ the double-team defender on the sideline, and what risks does that leave you with if it doesn't work out?
Yeah, it was something that we incorporated a lot, and it was one of those things when you're down and you're a team that needs to go ahead and try a bit of trickery, you need to do, but teams have figured out how to use it, and the one thing that happens is you just leave your backside open. And so as soon as the first throw goes off, usually you want to get out of that double team, and somewhere your defense is compromised.
Remy Ojo got his hand on the disc, canceling the deep shot from Cranston.
And just when we thought the Breeze were going to make a run to tie this game up, you have the Rush with a chance to go back up 3 again.
First pass from Harrison to Jones. Slithers it through. Harrison for Powell. Ojo could not haul it in. That close to another break.
Missed opportunity, to say the least, and that's one that Ojo should have grabbed.
Elton going long, but a miss release from Kolick.
I think you can get a good sense of how bad the wind might be on the field. It's not breezy up where we are, and you can take a look at some of the flags, and they're not blowing too strong. But Alan Kolick doesn't miss backhand hucks like that often.
So another chance for the Rush. Powell gives it right back to Jones. Flick to the end zone, knocked away. There was certainly some contact, but Schaffner will get credit for the D. And this is one of the most topsy-turvy points we've had in the entire first half, Brian. And Alex Gesquier will take the timeout from the sideline.
I was going to say, and it sounds about right for a timeout after a couple of turnovers. The offense looks tired, and the Breeze will regroup and see if they can put it within 1.
Ian McKenzie thought he was fouled. Referees did not make the call. So the DC Breeze took a 1-0 lead, but then Toronto scored 2 straight, and the Rush have led ever since. Alex Gesquier and several members of this DC Breeze team were out in the Bay Area last weekend for their first major practice weekend. Toronto Rush have worked hard to get ready for this season. Not a whole lot of outdoor ultimate, but some complementing the indoor winter ultimate that they play. Sashin Reyna, the new assistant player coach, and Scott Shooter Hasty. So it's Castine with a disc and Alex Simmons. Castine, longtime Seattle player, now with DC. Simmons, longtime Boston player, putting on a Toronto jersey for the first time. Schaffner. On tightly by Tan, and great handler defense. Rusty Ingold-Smith was right there. Tan looking for Ingold-Smith, but it was too far ahead. Final minute of the first half here in Washington, D.C. The Rush have had several opportunities to break on this point. And the D.C. offense take it upwind. Now, on the one hand, teams have had some trouble going this way on the field. On the other, this is the direction Isaiah Masek-Kelly hucked it beautifully. And another Rush mistake there. It was Castine who turned it over. And Toronto will take the timeout. 22 seconds on the stadium clock here at Gallaudet.
Motel 6 is rolling out their bright, modern, updated rooms across America, so I thought I'd give you the tour. To your right, you'll see some brand new comfy bedding and bold new colors. To your left, you'll find a new flat-screen TV, so luxuriously flat. plus a fully updated bathroom. You get all this and more, still for the lowest price of any national chain. Take it in. Take it all in. I'm Tom Bodette for Motel 6, and we'll leave the light on for you.
Founded in 1864. Really pretty campus here in Northeast DC, and the Toronto Rush have certainly been very impressive. No Mark Lloyd, no Jonathan Martin, no Steve Armitage, no Evan Phillips, and no problem for the Rush, who are looking for a break and perhaps a 3-score lead at the break. Toronto exhibiting patience, and Yearwood makes the grab with one hand. 15-12 Toronto. Adrian Yearwood has had one fine first half. Nathan Hurst with his second straight assist. And Yearwood, who's been a high-level player for Team Canada for almost a decade now. Part of the Canadian team in 2008. Now 27 years of age. The DC Breeze have 11 and a half seconds. Helton has 5 seconds. Took a look at the clock, gave it up. Jonathan Neely lets it fly. This is going to get to the end zone. And it's knocked away by the Toronto defense. Massett, Kelly, Harris, Ojo, and Howe all in the area for the Toronto defensive stand. So at the half, it's the Rush that are midway to 30. 15 first half goals for Toronto. The defense has taken advantage of its chances. And the offense has been smooth and steady. I have to say it's a successful first half for the Rush as they begin their division title defense. Certainly some new looks on the team and the debuts today of Alex Simmons and Rusty Ingold-Smith. Both have been very solid on the Toronto D-line that has created several first half breaks. And Brian Jones is down on the field, and he has Alex Simmons ready to check.
I'm here with Alex Simmons, Boston bred but now of the Toronto Rush. How's it been so far integrating yourself with your new teammates?
It's been a lot of fun. You know, I've spent the last 4 years playing against them and really studying what they do on the field, so I have that part down. It's a lot of fun to get to play with them and kind of use their talents to my advantage.
You seem very comfortable with them out there. So comfortable that I think for the first time in about 3 or 4 years I saw you throw a scooper for a score.
Well, that was just a little weird because it was the end of the clock was running down and I didn't really have much else to do, so I kind of threw it and closed my eyes and saw it. Prayed what would happen, I guess. I don't know.
Well, thanks for joining us. Good luck in the second half.
Alex Simmons, everybody. Thank you.
Back to you, Evan.
Brian, thanks so much. The Toronto Rush looking sharp. A 15-12 lead at the half. When we come back, we're going to talk to a member of the U.S. national team who is not on the DC Breeze, even though they probably could use him. 15-12, Toronto leads DC at the half here in our nation's capital.
Imagine you're in a new town for a couple of days and you find yourself wanting a bike. Use Spin Lister to rent any kind of bike in your area in over 55 countries. Have an unforgettable adventure while saving up to 40% on rentals. And whatever you do, don't forget to enjoy your ride. Rent a bike today or list your own to start making money and connecting with awesome people.
Early recognition is critical. Teaches middle school PE classes about ultimate Frisbee and cancer symptom awareness.
We're a registered nonprofit that advocates for an active, healthy lifestyle, body awareness, and speaking up if something is wrong.
Skills that, when it comes to cancer, can help save a life. Ultimate is a fast-paced team sport that's self-refereed, non-contact, and co-ed.
Spirit of the game is the foundation of Ultimate. That means we communicate respectfully, we're fair-minded, and we enjoy the game.
Ultimate is accessible to everyone. All you need is a Frisbee and some friends. Our team of coaches is made up of experienced and passionate leaders from the Ultimate community.
We teach kids that playing fair is more important than winning.
We can come to your middle school and run your PE classes for the day. And if we're not in your area yet, we'll send you our clinic in a box, where we give you the resources to run your own.
Ultimate Frisbee is one of the fastest growing sports in the world.
Teachers and parents love Ultimate Frisbee.
We are Eric!
And we want to work with you and your school.
Beautiful night here in Washington, D.C., but the home fans not thrilled by the halftime score as Toronto leads 15-12. We welcome you back to our lovely outdoor broadcast location. Evan Lepler, very pleased to be joined by Peter Pryle of the U.S. national team. And Peter, welcome. What are your thoughts on the first half?
It's been a good first half. Very entertaining for the neutral fans out there. As a DC fan, obviously, I wish the score were the other way around. But I think there's some things that DC will be able to work on in the second half and hopefully change the tide.
I'm sure they would love to have you on the team. You've played Ultimate all through college and now club and professionally Middlebury and with the Boston club team and now here in DC. How would you characterize what the DC Ultimate scene is?
I think the DC Ultimate scene is great. It's obviously very, very large. WAFC is the local organization that runs the summer leagues and the winter leagues. Tons of people are out there playing, which is really great. And it's also just a nice, welcoming place. I feel like when I moved down from Boston a few years ago, I was welcomed with open arms, which is really great.
I know you're a busy guy mixing Frisbee and law school and a relationship and a wife as well.
Exactly.
And that's the life we all lead. And with that said, now the U.S. national team, congratulations on that.
Yeah, thank you so much.
What was the tryout process like for you and the eventual result of learning that you made the team?
Yeah, obviously I was thrilled when I made the team. Tryout process was pretty grueling. Going into it, there were a bunch of guys down here from DC, a lot of them playing the game today, who were trying out for the team, so we'd work out together, get ready for the process. Then at the tryouts themselves, it was a lot of full field 3-on-3, full field 5-on-5, getting a lot of touches, seeing what people were like out in open space. And obviously I was thrilled when I got an email a few weeks after the tryouts were over telling me that I was selected for the team.
I've heard that Alex Guesquier loves the full field 3-on-3. As a player, what's your mindset when you have the 70-by-40 and only two teammates?
Yeah, it's tough because you want to make sure that you're not stranding the thrower, especially since, if you don't have the disc, you're one of only two other people who's able to get it. So you have to really make sure that you're utilizing the space well in terms of trying to stretch it deep, but also not stretching it too deep so that you can't come back and help out later on.
The classic balance, I suppose.
Exactly.
You guys got together as a national team last week in the Bay Area. You played against the defending club champion, San Francisco Revolver. A bunch of AUDL players were in that game, of course. What did you learn about your teammates and your collective unit that will help you guys going forward?
Yeah, it's a great team, obviously a collection of really great players. I think we struggled a little bit just in terms of having that on-field chemistry, which is tough to build, just during one weekend. We're going to go down to Colombia in a few weeks and play at a tournament in Medellin, which will hopefully bring us a little bit closer together. It was nice to have the opportunity to play against San Francisco Revolver. They're obviously a great team, won nationals last year, perennially a contender. But it was even better than playing them was being able to be on the same team with everybody during practice. It's tough because you're split between an offense and a defense, but it was nice to just be able to, cheer for everybody as opposed to only half the guys.
Do you change your mindset? I was talking with Dutchie before the game today, and he said it was great, but it was tough last weekend because I got 22, 23 guys that all want to make the first cut.
Yeah, that's definitely true. You're coming from a variety of club teams where everybody is, the alpha male or one of the alpha males on the team. And so sort of trying to figure out who was going to make the first cut and who was going to blend into the background a little bit more was a challenge at times. But I think, Dutchie pointed out, and rightfully so, that for us to reach our potential and for us to do the best we can in London in June, we're going to need people who are willing to sacrifice for the team. And I think, there were definitely instances at, over the course of the weekend at the practice where people were doing that, and it was recognizable and it was noticeable, and it's definitely going to make us better in the long run.
In a couple weeks, you might have a scrimmage against the Canadian national team in Columbia, because they're heading down there too. A lot of those guys, 14 of them, are members of the Toronto Rush.
Yeah.
What impresses you the most about the way they play?
So I think the thing that has impressed me about Toronto today is that they're always willing to just take what's given to them. I haven't seen a ton of forced throws, and I think that's sort of a staple of what Toronto does both on the pro scene and the club scene. So I think when we play the Canadian national team down in Columbia, I think we can expect them to just, take what we're giving them, and hopefully we're not going to be giving them very much.
Is your flight to London booked and ready to go?
My flight to London is booked. I'm very excited about it. My flight back is not yet. I'm trying to figure out where I want to go in Europe afterwards, take a little bit of a mini vacation after hopefully we take home gold.
Cool. Really fun chatting with you. Peter Pyle of the U.S. national team. He was ready to pinch hit in case Brian Jones couldn't get here today. Thankfully, Brian's here, but great to chat with Peter as well. And looking forward to seeing how the U.S. team continues to come together. We're scored at the half, 15-12 Toronto. Take a quick break, and then the AUDL Top 10 from Week 3 here on our Saturday showcase in D.C.
That's a second scoop over the top. Nice grab by Chris Brooks right in front of me. Picked it up right off the turn.
Right off of the throw, but man, it made it all the way back there. I believe that's sand zone.
We're about 10 seconds in.
that about Madison. But it looks like the AlleyCats are going to at least challenge with some of their zone going.
It's a big throw over the top.
That's
And it's knocked off. Oh my goodness.
That was a great climb by the Madison handler, but Nick Hutton coming in huge.
Sacrificed it all on that. I did not even see them coming.
Imagine you're in a new town for a couple of days and you find yourself wanting a bike. Use Spin Lister to rent any kind of bike in your area in over 55 countries. Have an unforgettable adventure while saving up to 40% on rentals. And whatever you do, don't forget to enjoy your ride. Rent a bike today or list your own to start making money and connecting with awesome people.
Spin Lister halftime promotion as they try to blade a disc through the hole near the bicycle. Spin Lister, a great sponsor of the AUDL, a national bike sharing system. Check out Spin Lister's official website. And we're about to ready for the start of the second half as the Rush hold a 3-goal lead. Brian Jones rejoining me here in the booth. And Brian, I think we're both pretty impressed with Toronto's halftime, first half performance. My question for you is, what do you expect from DC in the second half in terms of adjustments?
Well, I think a lot of it's going to be mental. It's going to be hopefully a cleaner game from the offense. And really, you got to look at the D-line here, who's made a couple mistakes late in the first half that could have put them within a couple of points. Toronto, though, is just taking advantage of every single opportunity pretty much early on, and that's what built this 3-point lead. And just every time DC gets close, the Rush are able to come right back.
David Boylan Colchin with a heads-up play there on the deflected disc in the end zone. But it will be Toronto ready to pull to start the second half. 15-12 is the score. Marin, Powell, Carroll, Howe, Simmons, Ingold, Smith, and Harrison. The defensive line for the Toronto Rush. The Breeze counter with Kolick. Bob Lou playing an offensive point here with Helton, Wodach, Cranston, Neely, and Doy.
Lou's got to be a substitution for somebody else coming to the D-line, so I wonder if we're going to see Schaffner start to take some shots for that defensive group.
That certainly would be a change to have Schaffner be more of a quarterback for the D-line, and that's a role that any number of guys could take as the O-line for DC turns it over. Certainly roles that Nicky Spiva and Brett Matsuka are used to having, and those guys are missed. Rusty Ingold Smith just shy of the goal line. Hits his Boston buddy Simmons. And it's Bob Lou coming up with a layout D in the goal line and get the disc back for DC.
Simmons trying to play catch with his teammate doesn't work out quite as they thought. And that would have been a 4-point lead, and we haven't seen too many 4-point comebacks in the history of the AUDL, and the Rush would certainly start to widen that lead.
Kolick had it knocked away by Howe, and there's no call. Incomplete.
Contact after the drop, certainly. Kolick seeming a little perturbed, having his legs taken out from underneath him. It's been a physical game so far.
Simmons marked by Neely. There's certainly contact there. Cranston may have caught Jackie Howe with a knee in the back of the head. Masson Kelly's coming back on the field.
It's always tough when that's a comeback catch there. The defender wants to make a play, but the offense has such a great position, it's really hard to do. And Cranston's a big boy.
Surprised Jackie Howe staying in the game. Masson Kelly looked like he was ready to take his spot as they head back to the sidelines. Simmons back to Howe. Carroll is wide open. Oh, and what a job milking the space by Simmons. The throw to the end zone popped up. And there was contact in the back. The referee was late to call it, but I thought Lou hit Ingold Smith before the disc was dropped. So Rusty Ingold Smith will center it on the goal line.
Simmons and Ingold Smith have tried to do it twice in a row to hit each other, but now they're going to go for part 3, and this one's going to work.
Toronto Rush have some new weapons. Alex Simmons, Rusty Ingold Smith teaming up for that goal in the first 4-goal lead of the game for either side.
Not the start that the Breeze needed coming out. You burned almost 3 minutes of the clock, and the Rush ended up with another break. They're just being more consistent in this wind and able to, it's coming down to throws and catches.
It's funny, the Rush have started all 3 of their previous seasons with wins over DC. 2 years ago, the season began here in DC for the Rush. That was the year that Tyler DiGirolamo and Alex Thorne and Brett Matsuka were on the Breeze. And Toronto only won that game by 1. Last year, they started the season with a 20-goal win over DC. Of course, a couple years ago when the Breeze season began with a 1-point loss to Toronto, it ended in the postseason with a 25-goal loss to Toronto and an ugly 37-12 laugher. So that's the history that the Breeze are trying to overcome, and miscommunication there. Ian McKenzie with an easy D as Wodach launched it when his intended target was cutting under.
We're seeing the difference between a unit that has chemistry over the years and one that's still struggling to achieve that identity. And you see how hard it is, even though you're bringing in a ton of talent, to just achieve a system that's seamless. Right now, Toronto just in rhythm, no problem fighting against good defensive looks.
Well, there's a slight error for the Toronto Rush as Jay Boychuk threw it away.
You see what happens when you give someone too much credit? They just come back to bite you.
We'll see. Neely lets it rip. Schaffner came back for it, but it went off his hands twice. And Toronto will call a timeout, sensing an opportunity to take the knockout punch. We'll take the break. Timeout on the field. 8:17 to go here in the third, and the Toronto Rush looking to knock down the Breeze. The DC Breeze got a win in their season opener against Ottawa, in large part because of a defensive line that converted turnovers into goals. They started on a 4-0 run. 1 throw, D pickup, and a goal. And then after Ottawa got back in the game, the D-line registered 4 more breaks in a row. Brian Jones, we have not seen the crisp offense from the DC D-line like we saw a couple weeks ago.
Right, and with this wind, I think it's got DC out of rhythm, but you've seen Toronto just act like it's not a problem for them. And they were ready for this game right away. And as far as the chess match goes, DC's adjusted, but Toronto also has and continued to maintain their success.
Harris with a beautiful toss, and Kelly is there for the score. That was majestic. Cam Harris to Kelly. 17-12 Toronto.
We talked earlier about what do you do to try to slow somebody like Kelly down, and he's been somebody that's been around the disc for so often, but here you see what happens when you go and try to take away the underneath from Kelly. You put it in the hands of Cam Harris, and this is an easy one.
throws like that, Cam Harris deserves to be in the conversation for the best 10 throwers in the world. I mean, that was perfect.
Yeah, without a doubt that Cam Harris, has that ability. He has the talent. And it's just a matter of consistency when you're talking about the top 10 throwers, top 10 defenders. It's who does it more often. There's a lot of people with capability. And at this point, it can be tough to tell. But that's what coaches are looking for, the consistency, the ability to make the play time after time.
Lou, Helton, Kolick, Monroe, Wodach. Before we can run through the 7 players, DC turns it over, intended for David Boylan Colchin.
I thought they were out of sync in the first half. And you would think they would have the adjustments here to come out together in the second, but every player still is making those one mistakes here in the early goings in the second half.
A stall was called on Simmons. Perhaps his welcome to the AUDL moment. Seems like a lot of great players in their first AUDL game are whistled for holding the disc too long. So a break for the Breeze. Can they capitalize on it? Howell and Helton, good matchup. Kolick marked by Harrison to the break side for Wodach. Just shy of the end zone. Yikes. Monroe able to make the basket catch. It was not very smooth, however.
Yeah, almost ran into a couple of defenders on the way to the goal. It just hasn't been pretty for the DC Breeze, and even when they're scoring it, it doesn't look like it was something that was done with grace.
It took them more than 5 minutes to get their first goal in the second half.
They're going to need another spark. Brian Marshall provided it earlier in this game with a great layout and got the bookends for the goal. This time it's about some of these veteran players and these superstars stepping up, because Toronto's been prepared for this game. Toronto has the energy. They haven't been challenged in the East Division for so long, and these teams and these athletes, they love competition. They love the fact that, this team for DC's coming in hyped up with U.S. national players ready to go.
Well, we've talked a lot tonight about the skilled players for both teams. Massick Kelly looking for Harris this time, just shy of the end zone. Hurst was the first cutter, couldn't get it to him. Quick reset for Yearwood. And now Harris, too easy. But we haven't talked about as much the defensive stars. Now we've talked about Ojo a little bit in Powell. Who are the defensive stars for DC that are going to have to step up for the Breeze to get back in this game?
Number one, I'm looking at Nate Castine. He's somebody that has historically taken the toughest matchup on the field, and he's risen to the occasion more than once, to say the least. Somebody who started playing in club in Seattle at the age of 18, coming out of Western Washington. He ended up playing in the World's Competition, getting a silver medal in 2008. Already collecting a couple more silvers in other World's competitions. He's been somebody, though, who's very experienced, very explosive. And at the right time, when the team especially needs a little bit of emotion or a little bit of energy going their way, he's somebody that can really give that to you.
Good look at Adrian Yearwood. Very comfortable as the Rush lead by 5. Cranston. Wodach. Reset for Helton. A lot of traffic up that line. He gets the reset back to Cranston. Still not great spacing here for the Breeze. It worked out. But that's not the downfield spacing that Alex Gesquier wants to see.
Exactly. They're not coming out and spacing the field well. They're hesitating on who should cut when, and it's tough to figure out. And that's one of those things, when you're out of sync, all of a sudden you can go from a team full of individually talented players that doesn't look like they're all that talented. They're making mistakes left and right, but they were able to put that one in. Evan, after this possession, though, I was just watching for a little bit, is Breton Tan just Holy cow, he can move. As a defender, you were saying earlier he was putting pressure on Alan Kolek. That is incredible in the way that he's just able to change directions and stay so close.
Brett Tan, a member of the Canadian Junior National Team that's headed to Poland at the end of July this year for the World Junior Ultimate Championships. And just a super quick guy who's going to be very good for many, many years. I asked Shooter Hasty who he reminded him of, and he went back a little bit and said a guy, Jesse Robertson, an old Toronto club guy who just generates Ds coming up through the pipeline.
And I think he reminds me out of another USA national team member, Trent Dillon.
Yeah, it's a good one too.
Just very athletic, and they both, they have great length and can move so well. It kind of looks like they're moving sped up compared to everybody else who's moving in slow motion.
Harris launches looking for McKnight. Thompson couldn't get there. So an opportunity here for the Breeze in their D-line. Go the full 80 yards. Castine picks it up. Crosses field to Cantone. Yikes. McDonald in his own end zone.
The offensive looks are very limited, and that's why Dutch is going to call a timeout and try to put his offense on the field.
You got to give so much credit there to Toronto's defensive effort. I mean, these are the O-line guys, and they weren't giving DC anything easy.
Toronto does a standout job of denying the disc, taking away time and space. It's a matter here as you see those kind of younger DC Breeze players who have the athleticism, they can get open, but all of a sudden when you don't have Alan Kolek or Bob Lou on the field, the field sort of shrinks. You don't have the throws available to space. You don't have the confidence to make those throws, and so you see Toronto just containing them, saying, we're going to make you throw something really tough right now, and thankfully nobody tried anything, because that's why you're going to put the offensive players on the field and see if DC can get back in this game.
It looks like there's going to be an offense-defense mix right here. Nick Castine, Rowan McDonald stay out there, along with Tom Doy and Alan Kolek, Markham Schaffner, Jonathan Neely. Who's the number one deep threat of this seven-man Breeze line right here?
It's a great question. I think you're actually looking at a lot of throwers out there with Markham, but then, the one player that I'm probably going to look towards is Rowan out there. He's somebody who's just been an outstanding athlete, a great addition to the squad.
Basic vertical stack. Begins with a quick break. Schaffner wanted to chuck it. Not better of it though. Kolek and Doy. McDonald. Double teamed, and nice awareness there by McDonald. Doy shoots it. Looking for Scott. Remy Ojo was there for the defense, and he fouled Brad Scott in the process.
Ojo looking for another highlight reel play. Just can't make this one without going through the back. Good job by Brad Scott, boxing out, taking the right position.
Last time we saw Remy Ojo in the AUDL was in San Jose championship weekend, guarding Simon Higgins of then the San Jose Spiders. Some great memories of that battle, but this opportunity for DC capitalized on as they take advantage of the foul and get back within 3.
They still got a long way to go, but that's certainly a start. After the lackluster start to the second half, they've started to turn things around a little bit, but they're going to be such a disadvantage here because you're starting to see that talent play two ways. And that means that somebody's going to have to come in on the offensive line who hasn't played that many points, hasn't had the chemistry, and they're going to have to go ahead and execute, which the DC Breeze have been unable to do so far. Kolek and Castine out there again.
Kolek, a guy who will go both ways for this DC Breeze team. Rowan McDonald with a score that time from Scott, who picked up the assist. Familiar names out there for the Rush. Yearwood, Massac Kelly, Hurst. There's a deep shot from Yearwood. Read well by Harris. But a pick was called, perhaps before the throw. So Toronto's going to keep possession, but they're going to have to go way back on their own side of the field.
Saw a jailbreak of Toronto receivers, and I was wondering, you know, Breeze need to come out with a good defensive stop, and I don't think the solution was to let 3 people go deep, so not surprised to see the pick call.
Yearwood marked by Markham Schaffner. Harris under. Massac Kelly. I'm really impressed with Toronto's decision making in their choices on when they launch downfield and when they holster the deep shot.
Split-second decisions are so tough to make.
And there's one that's again right on the money. Harris to Hurst. Beautiful.
Saw a lot of risk-taking there by DC Breeze defense. A lot of poaching, a lot of anticipation, and that's what happens sometimes. Is Toronto just has to be patient. They're able to find the open receiver. Massac Kelly puts the bow on top.
And Nathan Hurst is a guy that Shooter Hasty singled out. I asked him, who do you expect to make a real stride this year? Of course, they had great expectations for a guy like Cam Harris. Hurst is a youngster who, you know, perhaps during the AUDL season last year was still getting his feet wet in the elite game, but by the late stages of the season and into the fall where he played on the top Toronto club team, he became more and more unstoppable as a quick cutter in the small space like you talked about before.
It takes a long time to gain trust on an offensive line, and for Hurst to do it at such a young age means you know he's got the goods.
He's 20 years old. He'll be 21 though this Wednesday, so it's a big week for Nathan Hurst. Final 2 minutes of the third quarter.
Every possession here is important for the Breeze. Smart move by Wodach. Knows Goose is going deep, draws 2 defenders, able to get underneath.
Monroe needed a reset to Neely. Lou. Daring shot did not pay off for Bob Lou.
Lou has had a lackluster game in terms of trying to take the risks going downfield. DC had a good possession going on. Toronto defense has been playing well, but DC hasn't been able to sustain the possession through 20 passes to be able to make a type of tough defense pay.
See if the Breeze has the wherewithal to play defense here. Harrison breaks the mark to Henry.
You know, I think that's something that teams just don't pay attention to much to is the marks. And the difference here in this game, I think, is driven by the length of Toronto and their ability to influence the throw choices. Just their defense has had a great game of preventing the breaks and trapping DC.
A lot of mustard on that throw. Henry couldn't handle it on the slide, and DC has it back. Final 30 seconds of the third quarter. Can the Breeze get back within 3?
Offense hesitating, cutting, a lot of tired bodies out there.
Remember, the Rush are going to receive to start the fourth. Looking for the deep shot. Tipped up. Boylan Colchin stays with it. Did he make the play? He did.
the refs are going to say so.
David Boylan Colchin with 5 seconds left in the third quarter just made our club junior catch of the game. You didn't even see the first half of it. Here it is. Howe was right there. Swatted it away, but could not complete the D. The 33-year-old veteran, David Boylan Colchin. Many years with New York's top club teams, and he's been in DC since 2010. Just made a play to perhaps give the Breeze some life heading to the fourth quarter. Now the Breeze need to play defense here and prevent the last-second Toronto score. Yearwood got it off. This is not going to get there, and well, maybe he didn't get it off. So that'll do it. Third quarter in the books, and we take the turn for home as the Toronto Rush are 12 minutes away from a powerful opening statement to begin their season on the road. Toronto by 3 as we head to the fourth in a moment.
Early recognition is critical. Teaches middle school PE classes about ultimate Frisbee and cancer symptom awareness.
We're a registered nonprofit that advocates for an active, healthy lifestyle, body awareness, and speaking up if something is wrong.
Skills that, when it comes to cancer, can help save a life. Ultimate is a fast-paced team sport that's self-refereed, non-contact, and co-ed.
Spirit of the game is the foundation of Ultimate. That means we communicate respectfully, we're fair-minded, and we enjoy the game.
Ultimate is accessible to everyone. All you need is a Frisbee and some friends. Our team of coaches is made up of experienced and passionate leaders from the Ultimate community.
We teach kids that playing fair is more important than winning.
We can come to your middle school and run your PE classes for the day. And if we're not in your area yet, we'll send you our clinic in a box, where we give you the resources to run your own.
Ultimate Frisbee is one of the fastest growing sports in the world.
Teachers and parents love Ultimate Frisbee.
We are Eric! And we want to work with you and your school.
Great shot here at Hotchkiss Field, Gallaudet University, the home of the DC Breeze. And the home team finds itself down by 3 as we head into the fourth. Brian Jones, what's your key for DC here in the final quarter?
You saw Dutchie there making some adjustments on the defensive side. They haven't been able to stop Toronto, and when you're down, you need to generate turnovers. So it's a matter of, can they make the proper adjustments downfield, stop the flow from Toronto, make Toronto feel uncomfortable, and if they can do that, they have the talent to get back in this game. All they need is a couple of turnovers. They'll be back within 1. And, you know, especially with, like we said, we've talked about both of these teams, loaded with talent. We expect big things out of them. Wouldn't be surprised to see DC make a run here in the fourth.
A few other games going on right now in the AUDL. The Nashville NightWatch and the Raleigh Flyers are playing in Nashville's home opener. Raleigh leading, beg your pardon, 13-10 early in the third quarter, as the opening pull to start the fourth is not one to remember for either team. Dallas Roughnecks getting ready to start their second home game. They try to get to 3-0, playing host to the Jacksonville Cannons in the South Division.
Great scuba. The marks here for DC are trying to do too much and take away all of the field. It's impossible to do, and the defense just isn't working together.
And another little high release from Lindquist. Took 23 seconds. Toronto back up by 4.
Well, the out-of-bounds pull didn't help Breeze's cause too much either, but that's the problem with team defense, is just against these elite teams and elite throwers, you can only take away really a quarter of the field at a time, and you have to go ahead and try to take away weakness. the way Toronto does it is they have options on both sides of the field at all times. So if you're overcommitting and over pursuing, they're comfortable hitting the scooper. They're comfortable hitting the around or inside break to move the disc where it needs to be.
If I asked you to pick Toronto's best player today through the first 3 quarters, could you make a choice? Because I don't know if anyone's really separated themselves. They've all been so solid together.
I think that's the difference in this game is you can't really pick out a player to take away. If you could do that, then Dutchy's job would be simpler. But Cam Harris, Isaiah Masekele.
Adrian Yearwood's had a good day statistically too, but he hasn't been better than the guys you mentioned, that's for sure. Kolek hits Doy, looking long for Helton. Powell there. Helton has the score. That only took 13 seconds, make it 11 seconds to complete.
And that's the type of offensive play that you would come to expect of a team of this talent. Doy usually isn't the one delivering the hucks, but he can do it. And when your receiver is Jonathan Helton, it didn't matter if it was Jonathan Helton here. You didn't need his jumping ability, just his speed. Doy put it up in a platter.
Tom Doy told us yesterday that very slowly he started to learn how to throw a little bit, because for a long time he was a guy that just ran around. Jonathan Helton certainly the whole package, a couple goals, a couple assists. The guy they call Goose. If the Breeze are going to get back into the game, though, it's going to have to start on this side of the disc. Harris for Masekele. Wow.
Everything was running on schedule, and then Isaiah Masekele had to outrun the defenders. Does it well, but doesn't complete the play. And all it takes is 1 point for momentum to swing.
I feel like I've watched Isaiah Masekele play a lot of Ultimate. It's the first time I've ever seen him drop the disc. Tremendous layout D, and Cam Harris comes through with it. Harris has really done it all and may have landed on his left wrist. Harris is going to slowly come off the field here.
Came down awkwardly. Let's see here. Masekele runs it down, but doesn't complete it, and Harris, hand kind of rolls up underneath.
Popped up fast. I'll take a look at it with the trainer. Hurst back to Masekele. Lindquist swings it for Yearwood. The solid core of this Toronto team that will add not only Mark Lloyd, not only Jonathan Martin, as Yearwood's perhaps first mistake of the day. Castine quickly rips it. Schaffner in pursuit. No! He was there too.
Schaffner would have had to come up with an incredible grab. And Schaffner was open. Castine definitely was rushing that and trying to get it out. You haven't seen the defensive line be calm so far for the Breeze.
Toronto's also in a good position to add not only Lloyd and Martin, but also Justin Ford of the Great Britain national team. He expects to make his rush debut next weekend. And there's a guy who won a Callahan, and Will Neff. Which of those guys should Toronto be most excited about, Brian?
You got to be excited about Will Neff. He has the length. He's like, if you could double one player on the rush, a lot of people would pick Isaiah Masekele. And you may just get somebody who might be better than Isaiah Masekele.
That's high praise.
And there's a reason why Will Neff has won a Callahan and been a top player in Boston for years. And to see these two players on the field eventually after they've battled it out year after year in the club scene is going to be something to watch. I mean, where do you put them? It's a nice problem to have.
Exactly. mean, there's been so much talk about all of Dallas's roster moves, and obviously San Francisco too. High stall count release. Loose, oh my goodness! Thompson McKnight behind his back just made the play of the day.
Breaks all seem to be going to Toronto's way, even when DC seemingly gets the stop, gets what they want, or Toronto makes a mistake, it still works out in their favor.
Look what he found. Wow.
Surrounded by 4 DC defenders.
Unbelievable. So DC with a few chances on that point to get back within 2. And this fluky catch gives Toronto a 4-goal lead. That point took 3 minutes, a quarter of the 4th quarter. McKnight's a guy that, we don't spend a whole lot of time talking about, but a guy who really anchors them from the handling core.
Well, he's trusted to direct the offense.
DC attacking quickly. Nice bid from Kolek, but despite getting a finger on the disc, he could not haul it in.
When you look at Toronto's set plays, when they come out of what's called the split stack, they're reading the defense in the way they come down. And they rely on McKnight as the quarterback to run and execute the next option, to whether to switch the field or keep the disc on the same side, and who's going to get it, whose number to call.
Jarrett Marin made a nice leaping grab. Keep possession alive on the goal line. Here's Rusty Ingold-Smith.
McKnight had gotten such a reputation as a hucker that teams started to go ahead and take away the huck and guard him straight up, and as a result, when we talk about straight up, you're really flat and you're giving up both sides of the field, and so McKnight just said, I don't need to huck it anymore by reputation.
Jones a little bit too far ahead of Harrison. Lou picks it up and hits Monroe. So back to a 3-score game with 7:24 to play.
The Breeze just staying within striking distance. And they got a turnover earlier that they could have used. Castine trying to put it out, trying to make the big play to Schaffner, and sometimes that's the right call. It's easy from our place high atop here to be critical. Castine's a great player. And when something's not working, sometimes the best thing to do is to shoot it deep and do it to one of your other best players, which is Schaffner.
Tyler Monroe has certainly been involved today. Junior George Washington from Seattle, as we talked about. History major at GW, sporting the rainbow wristband. Forget about the political statement. It's a nice fashion statement.
Ultimate players are known for their swag.
Ultimate broadcasters, not so much.
Especially not ones that have to deal with a canceled flight.
Well, you made it, thank goodness. Making us all smarter with your wisdom. And a stall called on Yearwood. DC sensing an opportunity here, trailing by 3.
Defense has done a better job here in the second half of denying the first look. Sometimes they've been messing it up, but going for the risk again.
I think that's the first hammer of the game.
And today's weapons of choice have been the scoopers and the blades.
Popped up by McKnight. And then Schaffner caught it and he was fouled on the release.
The Rush players don't like it because the foul came from behind. The player who got the hand block, rightfully so, did not foul, looked like Schaffner. But now after McKnight gets a little bit of luck, Schaffner comes down with it.
Schaffner needs a reset. And Schaffner has the goal with Russell Howd as the helper. All of a sudden, we got a 2-score game in the 4th quarter.
6 minutes to go, and The Breeze got to get a couple more. The Rush, all they have to do, though, is not get frustrated. They've had a fantastic game. Harris and Isaiah Mazzucchelli have delivered the disc very well.
It kind of feels very fortunate for the Breeze to be within 2 at this point, because Toronto has controlled the first 42 minutes of this game.
Yeah, the tempo and just when you look at the Rush and you watch this game, you get a feel of just they're comfortable. The Breeze, they seem out of sorts. They seem confused. They seem to be taking higher risks, and when they do, they are not connecting on them. Where the Rush is, this is the offense they've been running for the last, even before they were formed as a team. Go back to the Toronto club scene. This has been going on for years. This chemistry goes back 5 to 7 years. A lot of these players make up Team Canada, have played together in world competitions, and will do so again.
DC fans getting into the game. Alex Simmons receives the pull. They're with Harrison, Lindquist, Harris, Mazzucchelli, Carroll, and Henry.
The Breeze employing a kind of a soft defense. What they do is they're going to allow any first cuts, but they're setting up downfield so that nobody can gain momentum and then go deep off of the first underneath cut. You see this a lot from Japan. It's the idea of conceding field position to make sure you take away the dangerous plays, which not a bad idea when Harris and Mazzucchelli have been burning you deep all game long.
Sure. Well, it's interesting talking to coaches and captains all around the league. There are so many different styles of AUDL defense because obviously you can't stop everything. Simmons to Harrison, beat the poaching defender Castine. Simmons pivots and finds Lindquist. Toronto exhibiting patience, up by 2. 5 minutes to go. And no! Alex Simmons with his first mistake.
A little bit of tired legs have forced teams to work, and you see those execution errors crop up.
One simple clap catch away from a 3-score game. And now the Breeze looking the other way. A downwind shot. Too far.
You had the receiver with steps. The idea isn't a bad one. The execution just has to happen here if DC expects to win this game.
That was a pivotal turnover.
I'm a little surprised not to see a timeout here by Toronto. The offense has been out of the field, a critical possession here. They could.
Well, right as you say it, Scott Hasty went running to the referee. We'll stay right here. 21-19 is the score. Toronto leading DC by 2, and the Rush have the disc.
Smart call here. Give your guys some rest. A 3-point lead by the Rush. 4 minutes to go. We watched a lot of AUDL games, but we haven't seen too many dramatic comebacks. Kind of a stranglehold at this point for the Rush. If you're DC, there's no time to waste.
Rusty Ingold Smith, Rush rookie.
Saved him in the seat on the plane, made sure he got in time.
You are one of the MVPs for the Rush today, making sure Rusty made it to the game. And this DC Breeze team, they've made their fair share of plays.
I'll tell you what, though, I went down on the sideline to give the interview, and I had Sasha and Reina yelling at me because what actually happened is that Rusty and I were on the same flight, and then I just beat him to the punch to get the first Southwest ticket, which happened to be the last. Thankfully, Rusty got on standby, but just because I had my data filled out a little bit, big Southwest frequent flyer, recommend it.
Well, not to give Sasha a hard time, but you are one of 2 on the broadcast, where Rusty is one of 20 on the Rush active roster. I'm glad you guys both made it.
Worked out, and it's a beautiful night. On April 23rd, and it's not that chilly. It's
gorgeous.
And this is something where We've been a part of Ultimate for a long time. For this to be opening day, it's fantastic.
Knight hits Yearwood. Masek Kelly narrowly evades the layout of McDonald. Toronto in no particular hurry to score, right?
Running time off the clock, and they have the offense to do it. Be very patient. Sooner or later, DC has to leave people open.
Breeze went for the double team. A bit frazzled right now. They're just getting recollected. Athletic bid from Scott. But he did get the back of Henry's leg, and I think that's a good call.
That's a tough one because it's not that much contact, but that can easily cause a roll-up type injury.
Oh, and Scott got a piece of the disc and forced the turnover. Schaffner lets it fly. Scott in pursuit. Got it!
Markham Schaffner loves to throw it deep. There are only a few things that are guaranteed in life, but Markham Schaffner throwing at least one huck per game is going to happen.
Brad Scott, the D and the score. Was talking with him yesterday about a bookend he had 2 years ago up in Montreal. One of the most spectacular bookend sequences that we've seen in this league. This is right up there in a critical moment. Scott from Schaffner. They're within one with 2:55 to go.
And right now, the Rush offense is tired. They putting that goal in would have put it away nearly. DC has one timeout left, but keep the pressure coming. Get your best guys out in the field. It's going to take another effort like Brad Scott just gave. We haven't seen Jonathan Helton out on defense much today.
He's out there now with Nate Castine, Russell Howd, John Agan.
And if we can go wide and we take a look here at the start of this play, the switching right now between Helton and Castine, trying to make sure that a huck doesn't go off, and Helton playing very flat, making sure that Masek-Kelly doesn't have a clean throw.
The battle at the top of the East Division. These two teams are certainly considered to be near the top. New York will battle for that as well. Can the Rush punch it in? Harris, calm catch. Nathan Hurst, the cool score.
Almost a fake out there by Harris and Hurst. The Breeze are still within striking distance, and it's going to take an effort, but put out your best O-line here, get a score. You could have 2 minutes to go and a timeout remaining. All it takes is one turnover. And really, what more do you need for a chance here? You can have Markham Schaffner pick up the disc and put it deep at the end.
The intensity and speed with which this game has been played for mid-April is pretty impressive. Now, there certainly have been mistakes, but talking to Ultimate players around North America, both Americans and Canadians, it feels like the impending World Championships coming up in London have quickened everybody's preparation for the season and perhaps continue their training all throughout the winter.
Especially on these two teams when you have just heavy representation from two countries, let alone one. You're going to see these players have been going since Club Nationals ended for them. A lot of their seasons after the AUDL last season ended in early October, and they went right back to the gym.
Contact on the mark. The clock continues to run. DC needs to hurry.
If you're Toronto, you just want to take time off here. Give them the underneaths. Don't worry too much about it. Play a safe marking system and just pressure.
Mike Jones was just lingering deep and then came hard at Wodach and forced to drop. And that could be the dagger unless the Rush make a critical mistake. Goldsmith tracks it down, swings it off the fingertips of Powell, and there's the mistake. Helton to Lou, to the end zone. Wodach! 1-goal game, 65 seconds to play. Just goes to show you, Brian, we talk about, oh, they should be easily able to take some time off the clock. We see every week in this league, that's not necessarily an easy thing to do.
When you have great defensive players and you can put pressure on it, it doesn't bode well. Toronto had the game in their hands, just an overthrow of Powell puts it back. Okay, with a little bit of pressure, they're still up by 1 in the driver's seat, and we'll see who Dutchie really values, because this is the best D-line you're going to see on the field for the Breeze. And really, it's going to be a pure D-line because you have 1 timeout left, so all they have to worry about here is generating a turnover.
Clock starts on the touch.
See the Breeze playing really soft, only 1 person near the handler space.
1 minute to play in regulation.
They're just going to continue to hold it, no problem.
Miscommunication there. There's no such thing as a stall count when you're not within the 3 yards of the guy with the disc. Toronto doesn't look too concerned about the clock. If they score, that almost clinches the game too. Oh, but DC!
Here comes a timeout.
Brad Scott again for the DC Breeze. Under 30 seconds to go. Clock is ticking.
I would think they would call it here, but Dutchie's just waiting for the moment because he's got wide open cutters.
Doy to the end zone, and we are tied with 16 seconds to go. Unreal.
Evan, we're going to have the good fortune of traveling to London in a couple of months, and I flew down for U.S. tryouts, but it's always a treat when you get to come out and see a great ultimate game. Good decision there by Dutchie. I would have called the timeout right away.
Brad Scott with the D. And then Toronto, unlike they've been doing all game long, just didn't pick up defensively. Tom Doy, a laser beam into the chest of Rowan McDonald.
I think Toronto thought the timeout was coming too, but they do that in the NBA. You see some coaches like to go with the timeout inbounds and let the defense set up. Here they just said, we're going to trust you.
Wow, Brad Scott has had 2 titanic defensive plays here in the second half to get the Breeze back into it. This is just the second tie of the game. The last one was 42 points ago when it was 1-1.
Presumably we could be going in overtime. It's not over yet because we know that there's enough of these ability of these throwers to put it to the end zone.
So let's see, we got McDonald, Helton, Doy, Kolick. Along with Scott and Castine. Toronto Rush out there with McKnight, Lindquist, Harris, Massa Kelly, Bomber, Powell, Yearwood, and Reyna. And the fans here at Gallaudet have gotten a fantastic finish. So if DC can get a stop, we will go to overtime, which would be a 5-minute period played in its entirety. If it's still tied after that, double OT is sudden death, and the team that pulls to start the first overtime receives to start the second overtime, but we're getting way ahead of ourselves. 16 seconds is plenty of time for Toronto. Big blading pull. Reyna picks it up, centers to McKnight. Harris.
Harris has a very good low release.
McKnight. Harris. This will count if it's caught. It's out of the hands of Powell, and we will go to overtime.
The crowd doing their job has Harris faked out for a second. He looks down, thinks that there's going to be no time left, realizes he has a second, puts it over. All the defenders for the Breeze stop.
Yeah.
They thought Harris give it up. Harris looks up, goes up, and after that you're thinking, oh, we've had a great game, the Breeze will come back, and you're watching it fall in the hands of Powell. Not today. We're going to overtime.
Well, he took the last shot. Now, did a DC player get a finger on this? Or did I really hard to tell if Castine got a piece of that.
At least he made the way out. If anything, Powell's going to have to deal with more people in front of him.
Wow, we'll take a quick timeout. Overtime coming up here in Washington, D.C.
2 wheels, handlebars, frame, chain, pedals. Put all those together, and you have yourself a bike. Seat a person on that bike, spin the pedals. You have yourself a ride. Do you have a couple more rides than you need? Or maybe you just have one you haven't had time to use in a while. Now, what if you're visiting from out of town for a couple of days, and you find yourself wanting a bike? Here's where SpinLister comes in. In 90 seconds or less, anyone can list their bike on SpinLister through the app or website. Set a rental price and select accessories to include with the rental. Once listed, people in your area can easily find your bike for rent. And when you find a bike and lister you like, simply request the ride. Select the days that you want to rent the bike, and a notification will be sent instantly to the lister for approval. At any time, start a conversation on SpinLister through its chat feature. Only after you get the approval, securely make your payment, and the rental will officially get booked. SpinLister doesn't give away any personal information, such as a lister's phone name, address, or phone number. Through the chat feature, the lister and renter can easily coordinate and communicate as much as they feel comfortable. And because SpinLister insures every lister's bike up to $5,000 for any theft and damage, there's no stress to let your bike go for a spin with another rider. And whatever you do, don't forget to enjoy your ride. Once the rental is complete and the bike returned, the lister can decide how they would like to be paid. And it's as easy as that. List your bike today to make money and meet people just like you. Rent the perfect bike in over 55 countries to save money and have an adventure.
Well worth the price of admission on this Saturday night in Washington, D.C. Week 4 of the AUDL season, and our first overtime treat. But over the course of the season, this has become very regular. Last week there were 3 overtime games, and it just goes to show you there was so much talk about how close these teams would be. 48 minutes, nothing has been decided. We'll see some of the best highlights here in the second half.
Some great defensive plays by both sides. You get a treat here when you see 2 teams with the stacked rosters making some great throws, some lucky catches. Thompson McKnight coming up with it. Tipped up, and Schaffner gets them back. It's his own lucky catch, and really that was pivotal.
And then this throw from Schaffner after the first of Brad Scott's 2 Ds in the 4th quarter. There's a big one. And that was on the last point to eventually tie it at the very end of regulation. Powell. I still am not sure how that didn't land in his hands.
We got our offense.
Had the victory, had it secured, and Toronto, if they lose this game, are going to look back and not enjoy their bus ride home. You know, then they could have put one away, and they're going to see if there's a new sheriff in town. You know, for year after year, it's been New York trying to threaten every single time, and they've had some close games and some talent-infused rosters come out.
I'm not positive about this, but I don't believe Toronto has had an overtime game before.
I think you've got to give the edge to the Breeze. They've had some momentum on their side. The only thing is that Toronto had 5 minutes to get rested.
I'm still not totally sure, Brian, how Toronto gave that away.
Miscues at the wrong time. They took advantage of all the DC mistakes early on. DC kept it close. At one point we were looking at a, was it 19-14 lead by Toronto?
Yeah, it was 18-13 was the largest lead by 5, so DC closed on a 9-4 run. But the Breeze were down by 4 when Thompson McKnight had that behind the back catch with about 8.5 minutes to go. And over the final 8.5 minutes, a 5-1 run from the Breeze to get back in it. A couple great Ds and quite a few careless mistakes from the Rush. And you know what, stuff we didn't see from them for the first 43 minutes of the game. All right. 5 minutes on the clock. The toss won by DC. They will receive. The Breeze have never led since it was 1-0. They scored the first goal. Toronto scored the next 3, and the Breeze have played catch up ever since.
Starting to see cutters get more comfortable moving at the same time. And sometimes with offenses, with the way defenses play today, you need to have multiple moving parts, and they need to work off each other very well. You saw Doy and Helton work very well off the start.
Rhett Tan comes up with the first play of the OT.
What an athletic specimen.
Just 18 years old.
I feel bad for all the juniors players he's going to be guarding in Poland.
Simmons in his first game with the Rush dishes it off to Howe. And Simmons again.
Simmons had a critical drop earlier. They ended up scoring in that possession, I believe. Actually, no, it was one of the breaks that led to go in DC's way.
Ojo needs a reset, finds Harrison. Gains 15 yards to Powell. Looking to the end zone. Bookends for Brett Tan. Toronto with a break to begin the OT.
After everybody's dogging it because it was a long point, the offense turned it over. Tan was running around like he was fresh as a, I don't know what, fresh as what, but
he's got the youth on his side.
That's for sure.
Youngest guy in this game, making his professional ultimate debut. He's gonna make you and me feel really old. He was born in August of '97.
I don't know, I think I was busy watching The Legends of the Hidden Temple or something back then.
Yeah. Glowing piece of the Radical Rock. And from Powell. That's how the overtime begins. Brenton Tan has grown up playing Ultimate, obviously. One of the players he most looks up to is his cousin, Caitlin Go, who was on the U.S. junior national team and currently plays at Stanford.
go is a fantastic player.
International family. DC respond. Boylan Colchin sneaks it through. Castine just shy of the goal line, and he hits Kolick. 23 apiece. Or was there a call?
Gonna go back to Castine, a little bump from behind after the catch.
No goal. For the moment, still 23-22. There it is, Tom Doyle.
So many of these players are used to playing this physical style, so they don't bat an eye when somebody lands on top of them or bumps into them after a catch. Castine just trying to play through. 3 to go. We saw the Toronto D-line started off with a break, and now an advantage back to Massa Kelly and Jeff Lindquist. Had their chance earlier to seal out this game, though.
They certainly did. It's been fun to watch Tom Doyle tonight. I think when the U.S. national team came out, he was the player that I was least familiar with who made the team. And clearly he has proven that he has belonged. He said he didn't expect to make the team, but he had a great tryout, so he was optimistic and got the message.
He deserved it. I got to go down there and watch the Great Ultimate, and was not a person who I was intimately familiar with as well.
Lindquist was bolting deep. Harris holstered. Rowan McDonald provided the pressure. Reset for Yearwood. There's soft mark from Schaffner. Hurst. Tied with 2:38 to go in overtime.
The soft mark can be good because it cuts off a wide angle, but it also allows these little skinny breaks to come through. Little lefties, normal things that are taken away by that tighter mark.
Cantone battling with Harris. McKnight to Lindquist. Open man deep. And the hammer will find him. Lindquist to Harris. The rush by 1.
Cantone takes a risk, which if you're a defensive player and turnovers come very rarely, it's not a bad risk, but what happens when you do it, he poaches off, Lindquist gets a disc, Harris is wide open in the end zone, and Lindquist knows what to do with that.
Toronto plays tomorrow. They will have some fresh legs. They had more than 20 guys make the trip. You know, Harris has had another fine game. Wonder if he'll ever give Alex Vlahos his jersey back.
The lucky jersey if they come away with the win. The unlucky jersey that gets burned if they come away with the loss.
Right.
But again, going back to that defensive sequence, you see somebody wide open and you're a fan, you might say, yeah, that's terrible defense. But sometimes the risk is worth it. And that's what happens when you take risks. You go for the block and you over pursue, and it leads to an easy score. It's just so tough against these elite teams, and a team like Toronto that's so good.
Again, Bob Lou with a throwaway. Didn't release it the way he wanted to. Good pressure on the marks from Tan. And the Rush with a chance to double their lead.
Lou is certainly not going to be happy with his performance, win or lose.
Simmons hits the open man. But there might have been a pick. No goal.
On the play.
Time continuing to run off here.
Gives Toronto some more space to work with. And perhaps the first time tonight that we've seen the slight miscommunication between new teammates as Simmons and Harrison were not telepathically in sync on that reset. A lefty backhand from Lou. What a catch by Cranston! The Breeze on the brink of a tie, and a foul on the mark, I believe. The clock still running. The Breeze looking to tie it up. I don't know if I'm more amazed by that Cranston catch or the decision from Lou to throw a lefty backhand hook in that situation. Deflected and caught. Kolek ties it.
And he's hurt.
And he's shaken up on the play.
I think there was some traffic. It looks like he got hit in the abdomen. We'll have to see on the replay. Close quarters for certain.
You see that coming from Bob Lou?
If the third and fourth turnovers didn't dissuade him from doing that, I don't know. I haven't been surprised in a while from Ultimate.
May have been a shot to the nether regions there.
Oh,
Powell may have caught him.
Taking issues with Powell with the shove. Powell certainly doesn't shy away from contact.
No, he doesn't. So just like the end of regulation, Toronto's receiving the disc with a chance to win it. There were 16 seconds to go at the end of regulation, which was plenty of time for Toronto to get a drop in the end zone. Let's just watch this play out.
A deep pull from Castine, but it comes down fast, gives plenty of time for Toronto to set up. Looking to switch, do a good job of stopping the set play. Anytime it ends up back in Thompson McKnight's hand, you know the defense did a good job of denying Toronto's first look. I think for Toronto, the message has to be, you're taking the last shot here.
Into the hands of Henry, 7 seconds. Masick Kelly launches. Knocked down by DC. And the first meeting of the season between these two powers will come down to one more point. Toronto will receive Universe point. 24 all after 48 minutes plus 5. 53 minutes and still no winner. We'll take a quick timeout. We decide who wins tonight when we come back.
Motel 6 is rolling out their bright, modern, updated rooms across America, so I thought I'd give you the tour. To your right, you'll see some brand new comfy bedding and bold new colors. To your left, you'll find a new flat-screen TV, so luxuriously flat. Plus, a fully updated bathroom. You get all this and more, still for the lowest price of any national chain. Take it in. Take it all in. I'm Tom Bodette for Motel 6, and we'll leave the light on for you.
The DC Breeze have only led once tonight. It was after the game's first point, with 11:16 to play in the first quarter. After Alan Kolek hit Markham Schaffner, it was 1-0. Toronto scored the next 3. The Rush have never trailed through 53 minutes. And Toronto will receive the disc on this double game point. You don't see this very often in the AUDL, except we saw it twice last week, Brian. What a crazy competitive league this has become.
Yeah, and we take a look here at Brad Scott's back on the D-line for the DC Breeze, and you heard cheers of Brad Scott. He's come up for them before, and you see Helton out there, as well as Castine getting set to pull.
Rowan McDonald, Alan Kolek, along with Ryan Marshall and Tom Doy. For Familiar names for the Rush: McKnight, Powell, Harris, Masek-Kelly, Yearwood, and Hurst. Powell up line for Masek-Kelly. Smooth offense so far. This is it. If the Rush score, they win. Scuba caught. Toronto has prevailed on the road to knock off the DC Breeze in double overtime, 25-24.
Great game. Breeze stuck with it. And like classic Toronto Ultimate, when you have to make a game-winning throw, you choose the Scuba. Not surprising in the least, Jeff Lindquist looking for Hurst.
Calm offense, and this is not all that bold of a throw for Lindquist, who has made a career out of that type of toss.
You can play the best defense in the world, but when Jeff Lindquist has the disc, it's going to hurt you when he throws the Scuba.
What a battle. And if this is any indication, the East Division is going to be a remarkable odyssey in 2016. I think the DC Breeze will certainly pull a lot of positives from this game in terms of the way they came back, particularly with how poorly the Breeze played for stretches. The D-line's inability to convert throughout most of the first half, but they certainly never gave up, battling back to tie it with 16 seconds left in regulation. And yet, in double overtime, the Rush able to pull it out in an ESPN3 instant classic, that's for sure. Anybody want to see these two teams play again? Because they play again next Saturday at Varsity Stadium in Toronto. The Rush will likely add Mark Lloyd and Jonathan Martin and Justin Ford and perhaps Will Neff. Some Toronto fans made the trek. It's a long drive, but it'll be a happy drive to Philly for the Toronto Rush. It took double overtime, but Toronto prevails. And a great crowd, many fans sticking around to get some post-game autographs. We will take a quick timeout and then come back with some post-game thoughts. Brian Jones on his way down to the field to get some reaction from the competitors. In double overtime, Toronto wins it 25-24.
Early recognition is critical. Teaches middle school PE classes about ultimate Frisbee and cancer symptom awareness.
We're a registered nonprofit that advocates for an active, healthy lifestyle, body awareness, and speaking up if something is wrong.
Skills that, when it comes to cancer, can help save a life. Ultimate is a fast-paced team sport that's self-refereed, non-contact, and co-ed.
Spirit of the game is the foundation of Ultimate. That means we communicate respectfully, we're fair-minded, and we enjoy the game.
Ultimate is accessible to everyone. All you need is a Frisbee and some friends. Our team of coaches is made up of experienced and passionate leaders from the Ultimate community.
We teach kids that playing fair is more important than winning.
We can come to your middle school and run your PE classes for the day. And if we're not in your area yet, we'll send you our clinic in a box, where we give you the resources to run your own.
Ultimate Frisbee is one of the fastest growing sports in the world.
Teachers and parents love Ultimate Frisbee.
We are Eric! And we want to work with you and your school.
Fantastic Ultimate tonight here in Washington, D.C. The Rush are still perfect against U.S. East Division foes. They're now 36-0 in the regular season. despite getting all they could get tonight. Down to the field, Jeff Lindquist is with Brian Jones.
I'm here with Jeff Lindquist, who just threw the game-winning score. So take me through that final point. What did you see, and why did you choose the scuba?
Well, I saw Isaiah's cutting in the lane. They were really tight on him the whole time. Finally got him right to the end zone, and he actually looks to throw it in, but my guy goes with him, so I'm able to just get it back. And then why I chose a scuba, it's probably the only throw that was possibly going to come out for me there. It's throwing a scuba to the break side, so that's shouldn't say that on the stream. Now the other teams will know, but pretty common one there.
You guys have dominated the East for a number of years now. How excited were you guys for this game, and how excited are you to come away with a win?
Very, very excited for this game for tons of reasons. We've actually had very close ones with Washington to start. I think last year we won only by a point or two at the end. But I mean, clearly I think they had like 85% roster switch over, and they were going to be a very strong team this year. And I mean, over the 4 years, that I was saying there, when we kept going to overtime, to my team, we don't get that many moments to play very high level ultimate, and we were able to get an extra 5 minutes and an extra point. So actually, we're pretty happy about that. Maybe we didn't want it to be through some drops, but pretty happy about that.
You guys looked real comfortable out there all game long, and it seems like this is a unit that has chemistry. You haven't had very many practices. Can you speak to the chemistry and the trust and the confidence you had in your teammates?
Yeah, well, actually, it was a lot of things, because Shooter, there was early on when he had times to not play the rookies. It got to be a very close game very early, and he had times that he could have taken the rookies and gone with some more experienced players, but we put the rookies on. And actually, Breton was on that last point. He got a D and a score in the first point of overtime. So that was great, having the trust in not only the experience, and not only our experienced players, but also the new players. And throwing in Alex and Rusty, obviously that was great. This is the first time we've got to play with them, so getting them in was just awesome.
And then you got more people coming, Mark coming back, Jonathan Martin, and then you have Will Neff being at it. It's going to be a fun season for you guys. Thanks for your time. Congratulations on the win. Jeff Lindquist, everyone. Back to you, Evan.
Ryan, thanks so much. A remarkable game tonight for the Toronto Rush, as they almost gave it away, but at the end they will take this win, and they will head to Philadelphia tomorrow after a 25-24 overtime, in fact double overtime victory tonight. It is a lot of fun to travel the world watching great Ultimate every week, and the journey continues next Saturday when the Raleigh Flyers will host the Dallas Roughnecks, our first glimpse of the new franchise from Dallas, Texas that has stolen so many offseason headlines. Next Saturday we'll see Bo Kittredge, Jimmy Mickle, Kurt Gibson, Cassidy Rasmussen, Dylan Freechild, and the rest of the Dallas Roughnecks, although they're in a battle right now with Jacksonville. We'll see if they're going to be undefeated next week. Tonight was very memorable, and it was great to have you with us as well. For our entire crew and from our broadcast partner Brian Jones, I'm Evan Lepler saying good night from Washington, D.C. In double overtime, the Toronto Rush pull it out 25-24. Good night, everybody.